Hey guys, Boltblaze here, and this is just a little prologue thing. You can tell because you're watching the video really high speed, upside down. And I'm just gonna say, throughout this video I say some things about my mom that I regret, and those being that she doesn't know love, and that's not really right. So I'm just here to say that it's really just through my life she was always the mean one, and that's how I remember her, and it's hard to avoid bias. But she loves me, so just know that. And also Logan Paul, and whichever Paul, and also every form of inequality, I just want to say is that we're not going to be able to get rid of them if we keep talking about them. In Logan Paul's case, we keep funding him because we're giving him the attention. And in cases of inequality like racism and sexism, I don't believe that children are inherently racist or sexist, but we keep telling them, like, don't be mean to the black guy. And then they in their minds differentiate between white people and black people, which is exactly the point that we're trying to get rid of. It's exactly what we're not trying to happen, because they're differentiating different people in their minds. And I know it's hard to think that we're going to get rid of a problem by not doing anything, but sometimes inaction is the best choice. And if you disagree, oh well. But I think that there's not really anything against me in this point. So if there is, and I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I don't think there is, and it's at least worth a try, because for all the complaining about inequality that I see, or I saw when I was looking for it, it hasn't changed, because people see it and they just differentiate in their minds, because that's what happens. Anyway, here's the rest of the video. This is getting to be the point where the video ends. Hey guys, I was looking through revisiting being a complete ignorant douchebag, and was looking through my feed. It was just late at night and I was bored, and I just came across the VidCon thing with like Sargon of Akkad and Anita Sarkeesian, and I realized that why not talk about this? I mean, it's not like it's been beat to death already, but really I just wanted to say it's just sad to me that this continues to happen and nobody learns from anything anymore and does anything with it, at the very least. And I just begin to realize that a lot of people don't know just basic truths at this point, through this lack of understanding that many people tend to have. And I feel like just the worst person, because I am the worst person, just speaking of this, because it makes me out to be a self-righteous asshole, but I am completely self-righteous and an asshole. So, and that's the sad thing about it, you can't, especially on this platform that is YouTube, you can't do anything without being terrible. Like, as Great Anders said at some point, I don't even remember, I don't watch his videos because I don't like I feel like a pretty backwards person, but a lot of things are backwards in this world of ours. But he said that controversy is one of the easiest ways to get good at YouTube, and it's just sad to realize that just how true it is that so long as you can make things happen, whether they're good or not, you can be something, and specifically bad, I guess. And it's sad because I am making this video to ride off of that. Not only to address problems, but because I can address problems in a way that doesn't lead me into success, even though I guess in a way I can't. I'm trying to think now of how I would be able to do that, but making a video about it does seem to be on the top of the list of things that I could do to address this. But just the state of YouTube as a thing, as a platform, it's just hard to do anything without first being something that isn't exactly the best thing. I don't know. And this is all in my opinion. I'm sure many people share my opinion. I would hope many people share my opinion, because that would, but at the same time, I can fully understand if people don't. But if, I'm really just trying to think about what I actually wanted to say, because I have forgotten at this point. It's become about me making a video, when really I just wanted to talk about the state of everything that is in this world currently. It's just sad to watch, because people keep making mistakes that continue to repeat themselves. We've stuck ourselves in this loop, and where previous generations would cycle, we've now begun a loop where just people will have, and of course this is me, I'm not experienced in this, we might break it might be another cycle, but I don't know, because I'm seeing all these people that are older than I, supposed to be more mature than I am, and they're making the mistakes that I would have made had I the power as a child. And that's what I've realized. I believe I was raised rather well, but a lot of people haven't been raised in the best way, while at the same time thinking that they have. And that is where a real problem occurs, because I'm not saying that any one way of parenting is better than the other, every other, but I feel that most are in plain states more effective and better in the end for everybody involved. I'm not a parent. Sure hope not. And my mom, she trusts me to not do stupid crap, but that trust comes from a fearful respect brought on by corporal punishment. And the thing is, people believe this to be a bad thing, but I'm gonna beat my children. It's I have no proof for or against this, but in my experience, it seems to have been the most effective and easiest way of making me not do stupid crap, paired with the fact that she trusts me to not do stupid crap. Because with this just comes the trust, the knowledge that I won't do it again, because I know that if I do, I'm going to go through the same or worse. And that's how the world works. And my problems that lead into school and such is that I don't have motivation. And people like to think that, children can change. People, they need to think that children, as you are as a child, is as you're going to be once you're grown up. And it's just funny to realize, as a large child myself, how just wrong that is. Because as a child, I was very ignorant, very loud, and very self-righteous. I believed I was better than everyone else because I was smarter than most other people around me, because I think differently. Or at least, this is just me speaking. I was pretty sure I was smarter than most everybody else around me. In many cases, I was just making an ass out of myself. I can think of very specific, and many other people can think of many cases in which I was just being an ass. And it's pretty funny to think about now. And then I realized that all of it was childish. That's the meaning of the word. Because I was doing it as a child, it all just seems childish. And that's why I realized that, firstly, the world works in cycles. This generation is just gonna be weird, a little weird, and morally not very good. It doesn't agree with itself. We can't find our own solutions to the most basic of problems. We just can't agree on anything. And as fine as that is, normal people will have differing opinions because we're human. We're going to differ a bit, and that's the best thing. But to a level where it becomes a lack of respect for basic life due to this differing view that someone may have that is different from yours. And that leads into just these people thinking that, like, not even thinking. I would hope to God that they don't think that this is okay, but they don't think about it. People just do things now without truly thinking through. For example, I recently, and this was a folly on my part as well, recently, this girl I have added on Snapchat started complaining, and she does this a lot. She was complaining that, boys are always trying to skip out on you or something. And, this girl is not exactly the kindest to me, which is understandable. I'm weird. I have been weird in the past. I can understand if she's not exactly the kindest person to me, because a lot of people aren't. And it's just rather, it's gotten to the point where I've come to an understanding that people aren't going to like me because of the mistakes of my past. I can understand that fully, because I don't like some other people because of mistakes from the past. I try not to lead into that, but it does not work, because bias is impossible to avoid in, I'd say, most situations, because the main point, say, most people know that you can't trust everybody because somebody's going to come along and take advantage of it. But my problem with that comes when it becomes the belief that you shouldn't trust anybody because everybody's going to manipulate you. And I don't believe that everybody thinks that way. I hope that not many people think that way, but I understand that some people definitely think that way, even if they don't consciously think it. it becomes a pattern of their life. And so, I made the observation that back to the girl from my school, I made the observation that she's not exactly the kindest person to many boys. And after realizing that she had me blocked, this was a dumb move on my part. It was late at night, I was being stupid. I publicly posted that maybe if she wasn't, and I quote, a basic bitch to most of them, she would be able to find the right people. And of course, I wouldn't have said this to her specifically. A lot of this was vibrato and effect, the kind of act I put on for many people in the hopes that maybe I will be liked. The endless epiphany of humanity, that we need other people to recognize our existence for it to have meaning. And that's what my problem is currently, that I lack meaning. So it means a lot to me. So, of course, I'm just going to say that what I would have said personally, if it had come to me actually being able to have a conversation with her, I would have just said that she's probably just not looking hard enough. Because, frankly, that's normally the case. One, we're in school, and you're not going to meet that many people that differ too much in school. Life is different from many things. Real life, the life that comes after everything. I don't know even what I'm saying currently, but I found that she probably acted near the same way to many other people, and while I had changed from the ways that she possibly remembered me being, she acted the same way toward me as if I had not changed and was still as weird, if not weirder, than I had been. And I made the rather biased observation that she probably acts this way to a lot of people, and it's impossible to avoid. Because, of course, people are going to act that way. It's only common sense. If somebody wrongs you more than once, you're going to start to expect it. Because that's how we survive. It just came to be, now that it's a public problem, it became a public problem. And, people, I want to say almost immediately, I don't completely remember. I started not really remembering things very well. I remember blatant fact, but not specific detail very well anymore. Possibly, I don't even know. I don't really want to talk about it, because I'm not sure the real reasons. I can give excuses and possible reasons, but I'm not sure the true reasons on why my memory may be faltering, or maybe it's just me. It's just the consequences of being alive. And thus, I want to say almost immediately, because this girl was a popular girl, and by popular girl I mean she was a normal girl, and that she had friends, because girls have friends. It's easier for girls to get along in this life, because boys like pretty things, and no matter how many girls aren't your friends, there's going to be girls that are your friends if you're a girl, and there's going to be boys that enjoy your company because you're a girl. And people, so again, I want to say almost immediately, but it's probably not even, maybe 10 minutes later or something, one of her friends screenshots it and just starts being a douchebag. And it's funny to think about now, because they didn't even try to argue my point. They just stated that I was weird. and that I started a Minecraft YouTube channel, and all these reasons that I was a horrible person. And all I really wanted to say is that maybe she should give more boys more chances, because if she's not finding the right ones, then maybe she's not looking hard enough. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, really. It ties in, but it's not a specific... I'm not talking about specifics. It's just that a lot of people act, or seem to act this way, seem to have this mindset that they don't think, really, or they think that by being mean or intimidating they can get me to completely change my mindset. And after that point, I really didn't care. Oh dang, I pressed escape. Not escape. But it becomes a point where I do care, because other people care. And the worst part about it is, after it was over, everything blew over, nobody cared anymore after like 2 days. I both was glad it was over and kind of sad, because for a while I was getting any form of attention and it was pretty nice, but it wasn't real. And by it wasn't real, I really just mean that it's just blown out of proportion. I'm mixing up two different things. I'm talking about the state of everything with the American mindset, and also my own personal life and problems with myself. They intermingle. And like, I had talked about the VidCon thing a while earlier with Sargon of Akkad and Anita Sarkeesian. What happened, if you haven't heard, which I hadn't for a while, but Sargon of Akkad, one of the anti-feminist YouTubers, was he and his buddies were hanging out in the front row, in the front 2 rows of Anita's panel, and a lot of people were in line asking questions, and a lot of them were probably trolls. That's what they're doing. One of them even said that, do you understand that a lot of us are just here to ask dumb questions because it's funny to watch you freak out? I'm pretty sure that's actually what one of them asked, because there was a question line. And she just got pretty mad after a while. And while Sargon was just sitting there, she called him out for being in the front row and called him a garbage human. And no, you can just watch anybody's video on it. Philip DeFranco covered it, Sargon himself covered it, some other people probably covered it. It doesn't really matter. I can probably link some things in the description. But you know what? I may as well just... Never mind. I may as well just link Sargon's video over it, because it covers it mostly. But I'm going to add here that it makes sense that she felt she was being attacked, because here's 2 rows of people that you know don't agree with you, and you don't know what's going to happen. And of course there's always his followers and whoever. He did apologize afterward for whoever if anyone had who associated with him had ever harassed her online, because frankly he's a good person. I say I'm biased, as I've said, but it just saddens me that I understand both sides and agree with I almost agree with neither, except Sargon's a good person. Not to say that Anita is not. I liked Hyper Light Drifter too. But it just... the world is backwards. And a lot of people people believe that if you don't let children fight, then they're not going to fight when they grow up. But and this is my mom's belief, I believe it as well, because it makes sense in my mind, because that's the way my mom has trained me to be. Somewhat not trained. It sounds like a bad thing, but really I agree with my mom anyway. She's trained me to, she's led me to be a logical human being that relies on logic to exist to an extent. I don't know. And thus it makes me realize that as I am changed from the way that I was as a child, it's very backwards, because her take on this is that people don't let children fight when they're children, like in schoolyards, because they thought that that led to more fighting, because in certain minds it makes sense. If you teach them that fighting is okay, then it's going to be okay, and fighting's not okay. And that, in that context, it makes sense. But children can't hurt each other as much as grown men can. And my mom's take on this is that if children were allowed to fight each other and get into a pecking order, so that everybody realized real quick that you can't do or say this to this person or you're gonna get beat up. And it makes sense. Like, that's the concept of the mob, and nobody really messed with them. I'm sure there were people that messed with them. There were definitely people that messed with them. There was like a whole gang of people that messed with them. I'll never take sides against the family again. And then people would realize really quick, you're not allowed to do this to this person or you're gonna get beat up. And people would realize their limits really quick. This isn't part of hers, I'm just, yeah, never mind. But and then there wouldn't be people getting angry at each other so much now and getting into bar fights where people get, like, killed, because a child's not going to kill another child. As much as I tried as a child. Yes, I did. I tried. Daniel, you know who you are. I'm not gonna end up being able to actually kill someone. And that deepens as you grow up and realize that the things you did as a child were childish. And there's this thing going with some feminist people that they use children and have them make like some sweary, I'm in a princess dress and I'm swearing about the wage gap video or something. I don't even remember completely. I got the gist. And I just made the realization that it's kind of ironic almost that these are possibly going to be the most upstanding members of society, because they're going to look back at all the things they did and said, and they're going to think of it as childish because they were children, and they probably didn't know what they were talking about. I mean, the people telling them to say probably didn't know what they were talking about either, but that's my opinion. And I try not to get into politics about it, but it's near inevitable and it would profit me to do so, because in the end I am a selfish, self-righteous a-hole. But it doesn't matter too much. Hey, boosted. I don't even remember. I don't even know anymore. All my friends have like joke screen names at this point. I think that might be Chrono Chain. but of course he doesn't do YouTube anymore, at the very least. And all he plays are PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and Overwatch and Speedrunners, because why would you ever buy a shooter and then play it for more than 4 days without then buying another shooter and thinking of it as superior? Mini rant. It's just kind of funny to notice. I already talked about the cycles, right? And how people this generation are going to be weird, and then realizing how weird they are, they're going to teach the next generation to work harder, or the next generation is going to realize that it has to work harder because to make up for the mistakes of the previous generation. And this has happened throughout history. And then as they have worked hard, the next generation will not work as hard because they don't have to. And that's my thing too. My work ethic is screwed because after 3 other children, my mom was fed up in having to teach me to fend for myself, and fended for me. So if I wanted something, depending on what exactly it was, I would get it. And I really feel hypocritical now because I always felt me and like my mom care, and that well, really she didn't care. To an extent, she didn't care. She doesn't care. She doesn't properly, I feel like she doesn't properly understand the concept of love, which is sad because one parent's borderline bipolar and the other parent is a borderline sociopath, and I'm the product of that. As a sociopath myself, I would almost say. And it just comes with the understanding of my own self, and that I don't know what I'm going off on. It's just hard to look at things now and not feel something. I don't know. I'm not really a sociopath, I don't think. I don't even really know completely what sociopath means. If it does mean something that doesn't feel empathy, I feel empathy for other people. I don't believe I am actually truly a sociopath, nor is my mother, but we both get screwed up emotionally because we're like cats. Cats do not like showing their emotions. It's a survival tactic. If you're screwed up, nobody's gonna care. And that's how the world works. That's how the world at least should work. Because then we can learn to deal with ourselves. And that way we can learn to deal with each other. Because that's how it should work. We shouldn't have to rely on other people to deal with us. But we also shouldn't have to deal with everything on our own. And that's where it gets difficult, because it becomes very specific just what we need, to a point where it's very difficult to achieve, and it's just hard to watch, because this is what it's come to. And like, people don't know how to deal with things anymore. I was watching Dana, whatever his name is, the guy that played Garth from Wayne's World, his straight white male 60 skit thing, and it was pretty funny. He made some things about his millennial children, because he they were all pretty funny. But he made some jokes involving things like, just, hey, I don't really know how to ... Can you do it? Or things like that. And it's sad because as much as you don't like something, if it's true, then you can dislike it all you want, but it's not going to change the fact of its being true. And there are many people now that don't know how to do things because they never needed to know. And that's the problem of both sides, but almost more the problem of the parent, because they didn't make them do anything. My brother is pretty successful. I have an older brother, he's the oldest one. My brother's rather successful. My mother, I think he's my mom's favorite. And that's not even a joke. Like, one time, never mind, I'm not going to talk about it. But he actually had to do stuff growing up, because that's how my mom grew up. He's basically my mom, except not my mom, and also not, I have a near sure belief that he understands love, but he has a very good understanding. He is very good at working. He's a working class male. And it's the understanding of this with, I'm bad at working because I didn't have to as a child. If you make someone do something as a child, and it's amazing how backwards this is, because I was just saying that if you have if you let children do something as a child, that they'll eventually grow out of it. But if you make children do something as a child, then it could benefit them. And I'm not condoning tiger moms. And this is why it's hard to hold an opinion, because the radicalists of whichever group you may belong to will always be the ones that are noticed the most, and you will almost always be in the shadow of those people. So it's hard to say something at all, because there will always be people that take it to the extremes, and then people will believe that the extremes is the outcome that you want, where feminism, for instance, just wants equality for people, but a lot of people get misconstrued and start to believe that feminists want all men to die, and that women should be superior. And my dad almost feels that way, but that's because he's an ist. He's very ist. I'm not ashamed of saying that, because it's pretty funny sometimes. We're Irishmen. Not really, actually, we found out we're not. But if you believe something, then it comes true in your mind, because that is the way of humanity. And so it just comes very difficult to just keep things in an order, and that's why it's almost dangerous to start talking about something, because there will always be people that take it very wrong. And it brings, I guess this also ties into the Sargon Anita thing. It just brings me to, and I don't know if I would hope that this has been covered as an actual, like, topic not a major in college, but my content versus intent debate thing, basically, where you can show someone something and they can take it the wrong way, but that doesn't really change why you showed it to them or what you were planning to accomplish. And it becomes something where who is in the wrong at that point if it is taken the wrong way? Is it you for making the content, or is it the other person for not perceiving it in the way that you had hoped? Like, at some point, these, this school made a football shirt, a shirt for their football team because they had a really good football team, and it was making reference to the fact that they were really good, and it said, it read, shh, just let it happen. And many people took that to be a rape joke, and while I'm not completely sure that they were not making a rape joke, I would hope to God that these students aren't dumb enough to do that, and that the faculty of the school is not dumb enough to do that, and that it all made sense to them. But since people took it in a way that was not, it wasn't meant to be perceived, it had to be taken down. I don't really know if they got in trouble. Probably got in trouble anyway. But they were in the wrong for making the shirt, even though their intent was not to make a reference to rape, but to make a shirt, and that's it. So it kind of all comes back to that. Sargon has stated that his intent in being at the panel was to listen to her, to Anita, and give her the chance that they didn't give, that she doesn't give the people that he was with, because he's also one of those I'm gonna be the better person people. And it makes sense. I'm definitely actually just making this video to get out of playing the air level of Shovel Knight, especially since I would then have to play the Plague Knight version of that level, and I don't like that level. It sucks. I could play the Polar Knight level, but I don't know, man. Polar Knight is like his buddy. Alright. But so they all, it all comes down to that. His intent there was not to harass her, it would seem. He has said that his intent was not to harass her, but his presence was taken as an attempt to attack her. And it became something that it wasn't meant to be. But it doesn't matter that she took it the wrong way. All that really matters is that she felt attacked. So neither party is better than the other. There's no real way to foresee these events transpiring besides using common sense, I guess. One could easily deduce that she would realize their presence and not take it well.
You ready to go real quick?
Yeah.
Cool.
But that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Just, yeah. I'm probably gonna end it now. I'll see you guys the next time I want to talk about something. And that may be soon, maybe not. Yeah. next time I don't want to do a video. Bye.